Well, hello everybody and welcome to Oulton Park for the inaugural race in the British F3 iRacing Championship. A packed grid of cars with current and former BRDC F3 drivers and the promise of some surprising names making appearances throughout the course of the 5-round series. All of it's going to be streamed every Sunday at 6 p.m. for the next 5 weeks, both on the official British F3 Facebook page and YouTube, all in association with Apex Racing. 8 teams from the 2020 BRDC Formula 3 Championship will be represented on the grid alongside a handful of independent entries. And when we look at generally the quality of the entries we've got here at Oulton Park, we've got 2 former BRDC Formula 3 champions plus 2 former runners-up. So NM Ahmed, the 2017 champion, is on the grid. Will Palmer was the champion in 2015. He's on the entry list here this evening. And also 2 former runner-ups as well. Jonathan Hoggard was the runner-up in the championship last year, 2019. And the year prior, 2018, Nikolai Kiergaard was the champion. Both of those are on the grid as well. We've also got 3 former winners of the Aston Martin McLaren Autosport BRDC Award. Jonathan Hoggard, Tom Gamble and Will Palmer. And a guest driver this weekend, just to add extra quality into the mix, 4 times British GT champion and Le Mans class winner, Johnny Adam, also joins us as well. Joining me in commentary, my name's Mark Querrell, is Jack Coonan. Jack, what an entry list we've got for the very first round of the British Formula 3 iRacing Championship.
Exactly. Thanks a million, Mark. Great to be here for the British F3 Championship on iRacing. Pity that we can't have it in real life, but we're representing it here in the form of iRacing, the most advanced simulator you will find on the market. So we're here in Oulton Park, as you said, the international layout. So you've got the chicane at the back of the circuit, plus the little back straight as well. So there's plenty of guys as well, as you said, with plenty of real life experience, but also a few that have got lots and lots of esports experience. Nicholas Varone, for example, your current fastest man. Johnny Adam, vastly experienced in a simulator as well. There's lots of TCR, GT and Formula racing within here. Jonathan Hoggard as well, present in a lot of Formula 3 series as well. So there's some serious talent, both in real life and in the esports sense here. And we're just in the middle of free practice now, so we're just getting an idea of who is going to be fastest here today.
Absolutely. We had a test session earlier on in the week. Jonathan Hoggard was fastest in that. He set a fastest time in the testing session of a 1:26.0, but that was exactly the same time that Harrison Scott, the British youngster, set as well. In this free practice session, however, it is the Argentinian Nico Varone who is topping the times, and at the moment his best time is a 1:25.81. Now, Nico, lots of e-racing experience. He has raced in BRDC Formula 3 before. He did 9 races back in 2019. He did Silverstone and Spa for Hill Speed Racing. Had actually a win then as well, but has been racing in Formula Renault in Argentina, but has already decided for 2020, as and when we get racing for real, he will be racing in the championship for Chris Ditman Racing, which is who he is representing here. Doesn't matter where you look, as ever, Jack, we have an international flavour in the British F3, as it is iRacing Championship here, with Argentina represented, Belgium, Australia. We've got Scandinavia represented with the likes of Nikolai Kiergaard. We've even got the Middle East represented as well. So, you know, it's a real international flavour, just like the real championship that we see.
Exactly. So it's not just a British championship, it's almost a multinational championship you've got here. So it's the Argentinian currently quickest, Tom Gamble second, and then Jonathan Hoggard fourth. And obviously you mentioned Belgium are represented. You've got Australia, New Zealand, Cyprus, Bahrain, as you mentioned, the Middle East, and Isle of Man, Scotland. So there's drivers from all over the world here, and just now sorting themselves out into the race. So the format will run with the practice plus lone qualifying. So the drivers will be on the track on their own. They have 2 laps to set their fastest time. If you run off the circuit within the iRacing have their own in-game stewarding system. So if you run off the track or you spin, for example, or you cut the track and gain an advantage, your lap time is immediately invalidated. So they only have 2 opportunities to get it right. And if both of those are wrong, then of course you're going to be starting from the back of the grid. So there's a lot of pressure in qualifying. Then we will have the heat race, which is 20 minutes long, then a 10-minute warm-up, and then we'll head to the feature race. So it's an action-packed one. It's very fast-paced, and around a track as narrow as Oulton Park, it's going to be brilliant.
Yeah, really looking forward to this one. I'm struggling with getting any graphics up on the moment, and some of my cameras are looking rather strange, but I think that's probably a small technical issue I might be able to work on whilst we continue with this free practice session. There we go, graphics have now started popping up, which is good. Nico Verone still looking good. Tom Gamble is second quickest in this free practice session as things currently stand, as we look at Jake Dalton around the circuit. But again, on my cameras, that is not at all what I'm seeing. I'm seeing lots of grass at the moment, which I think is going to cause me a problem as and when we get the full qualifying session underway. Right there, Jake Dalton appears from behind the grass, currently looking to see what he might be able to do. Jake Dalton. And we will see as to what Jake Dalton might be able to do over the course of this one. He finished 5th in the BRDC Formula 4 Championship, as it was called at the time, back in 2013. That was Mark Godwin Racing, who don't race in the championship anymore nowadays, and has also done a little bit of single-seater racing in Intersteps, in Formula Renault, and in the UAE Formula 4 Championship as well. So he will be looking to see as to what he might be able to do over the course of the remaining 9 minutes now of this free practice session. So Jake Dalton, I think you look at the entry list that we've got here. We've spoken about the quality of it, but every single driver, bar probably two, have a link to BRDC Formula 3, or as it was called, BRDC Formula 4. So the likes of NM Ahmed, the champion Nikolai Kiergaard was a runner-up. Jamie Caroline's on the entry list. He did 9 races in the past. Kieran Vernon doesn't race much nowadays. He's out in the 51 Chris Dittman Racing, but he's the Chris Dittman Racing driver coach nowadays. He did race for Hillspeed back in 2013. I think the only two don't have a direct link. One is Johnny Adam, our guest driver, and the other one is Vladimiris Tjoitsis, who has raced in the past for Fortec in Formula Renault, who are one of our teams, but hasn't actually, I don't think, dipped a toe in the water of BRDC Formula 3. But who knows what he might be doing for the 2020 season, because I don't think he's announced it as yet.
No, so obviously every driver has got some kind of link to the BRDC Formula 3 Championship, which is always great. So we have almost an official lineup that we got. And so now we have 8 minutes, creeping up on 7 minutes left of free practice before we head into qualifying. So the drivers now would really be focusing on their long runs. Obviously, you don't need to go too long, because the races are only 20 minutes per session. So you just got to be getting an eye in. They don't really need to worry about pit stops, because these will easily get to the end. No need for tire changes, no need for fueling. So, and these guys, of course, now, of course, a very big part of it as well is getting used to running close to other cars. So you're on board with Tom Gamble now, as he's just trying to follow the car in front. Now, there is an element of dirty air that comes in right here, and the slipstream effect, of course, is very powerful. Not as much around here at a track that's very tight and twisty like Oulton Park, but it's essential that you get used to following the cars. Tom Gamble runs off the road a little bit now. Into the last corner now, which is Deer's Leap. You'll see why it's called that, as they drop over the top of it and then down again and back up again. So it's a massive little dive there, but that is an essential and a brilliant overtaking opportunity. And Mark, we've seen so many races in various British series go down to the wire at that very corner. As we head down the hill into the first couple of corners now, just watching Tom Gamble follow car in front, and just again getting used to following the cars. We head down the back of the circuit now into the left-hander at the bottom hairpin, and that is off camber as well. So you gotta get the car to the inside and use the camber to your advantage. And down the back straight now, on the normal layout, you would go straight on. But now we have this quick chicane with the tyre bales on the inside and outside, which are ready to, as Tom Gamble makes contact with the car in front, around he goes. And that's going to cause some problems as another car collects him and takes off the front wing and the nose cone. And that leads into the next point, of course, which is the damage model in the Formula 3s is extremely, extremely vicious on iRacing. The V7 damage model and the V7 tire model. So any sort of contact in any way or shape or form that is hard of any kind, it will break suspension, it will pull bits off the car, and even the smallest wheel-to-wheel contact can just break the suspension and leave you in the wall very, very quickly. So there is an element of that. Drivers have got to be careful on lap 1 to avoid any sort of major incidents as they continue to circulate around the corners and continue to get their eye in on this brilliant Oulton Park circuit. 2.67 miles around the forests here, and I believe, if if I'm not mistaken, there is an old entrance to a castle on the final corner on the left-hand side as they head into the Deers Leap corner. I think just the entrance to the actual Oulton Park is on the left-hand side. Big, lovely gate in the back that they circulate through. But it's still Nicholas Verone, Tom Gamble. Now we're on board with Harrison Scott. You can just see how close they're running now, because this is how close they're going to be running in the race, nose to tail, as we've seen in the BRDC F3 Championship. So often Harrison Scott just slots up the inside with no issues whatsoever. Dropping downhill, now you'll get an idea of the kind of elevation changes we're talking about as he exits that corner nicely. Up the hill again, so you can see how much the track actually rises up. You can see the banking on the right hand side, because the track does go up to that level around the left hand side, and you see how much the corner is banked into this hairpin, using all of the curb on the inside. On the power, got to be very careful because the car tends to get skittish on the exit. Now you'll get an idea. Let's see how Scott negotiates this chicane. It's very fast, very close to the tyre wall. Careful not to spin on the exit, because you've got to use some of the grass to actually get some speed there. Down the back straight then, and into the very, very tight chicane here. Onto the brakes. Turned it in. Nicely done from Harrison Scott there. On the power. Back. The right hand side, drops a wheel on the grass, spins it around. Does he keep it out of the wall? Yes, he does. That's how easy it can go wrong, though. It's so simple. Just dipping a wheel onto the grass, spinning around. Now he recovered it very, very nicely there, did Harrison Scott. So not a bad job from him to get it back going again. And he's again. Thankfully, you cannot get stuck in the gravel here on iRacing, so you can still get it going as long as you keep your foot planted. Bart Horston, we look at Lenan Racing as he heads down the hill now. A very experienced esports guy as well is Bart Horston, and now circulating around. He is currently sitting in 8th place, just behind Will Palmer, Enam Ahmed, and currently still Verone leading from Tom Gamble, Harrison Scott, Jonathan Hoggard, and all going well for these guys. Now, let's see how Bart Horston is negotiating this as they continue on their way. 3 minutes left on the clock. Gets a little bit sideways through it. Very easy to do that. Just getting a little bit loose on the brakes there. Heading down the hill again into the first chicane. Getting it stopped there. So just a quick one to mention as well. Each of these guys are running under the official British F3 teams. So you've got Lenan Racing, you've got Fortec, you've got Carl and Chris Dittman Racing, and they're all represented. Team managers are involved. We're just in the background in the Discord server that they are on. Each of them have their own assigned channel, which they are in with their engineers. So everyone is taking this very seriously, because it's basically the only motorsport we have at the moment is represented on iRacing. And it's great to, of course, have the guys here racing with us and doing an amazing job as well. So Kieran Vernon, Chris Dittman Racing, P10 at the moment, the number 51 car. Now just sitting behind Depot in P9. But still, we're just looking at Vernon just negotiating the first hairpin there, and Verone is still out front, and he's definitely going to be one of the favourites today, because he's vastly experienced in these Formula 3 cars on iRacing specific. Now, of course, the modelling of the Formula 3 car is not exactly perfect, but it has been regarded as very, very accurate from a lot of guys who have driven these cars in real life. Verone being one of them. And Johnny Adam as well talks about how accurate these cars are as well. Now, of course, he is more a GT class driver, is Johnny Adam. But there you see an example of getting the chicane wrong. Jake Dalton just dipping a wheel, hitting the tyre barrier, breaking the suspension, and that's how quickly it can go wrong. And when you've got another 20 cars circulating, and it's going to be difficult on lap 1, especially when they're following nose to tail coming through that chicane. If one driver gets it wrong, then there's going to be a chain reaction effect. And we look at Piers Pryor, teammate of Bart Horston, in a non-racing car, the number 21, as he heads up the hill, dips a wheel onto the grass as well. Got to be very, very careful there, not to spin it around. We saw the driver get it wrong through there. Now, this back of the circuit, extremely tricky, very high speed, and as well a little bit off camera. That corner right there is very deceiving. Double right-hander, double apex right-hander. Very easy to go wide. Then into Deers Leap we go. Into the last corner, rises up, then drops away from you as he tries to get on the power, then goes back up the hill again, heading towards someone. It's an uphill drag. It doesn't look uphill, but you get an idea of it right there. You can see the elevation changes, and then turn 1 dropping away from you just a little bit as well. Carter Williams, the number 58 JHR Developments driver. Now, he negotiates his way through the chicane. just in a gaggle of cars right here as he finds his way through. As we tick to the end of free practice now, 1 hour has passed. This now secures absolutely nothing because they've got to go through qualifying now. 8-minute qualifying, 2 laps lone qualifying. So the drivers have the track all to themselves, but they only have 2 chances to get it right. Only their best time will be counted. And now the timer ticks to 8 minutes. So I believe Mark is having some technical issues at the moment. We'll try and get him back in as soon as we possibly can. So we will. I'll do my best to carry you through the action as we head into qualifying. So, like I mentioned earlier, the in-game stewarding system that iRacing has is we like to call the X system. So 1X you will gain one incident point, should we say, which is a 1X for running off the circuit. You will get a 2X for spinning the car, and there is a 4X for making contact with another driver. So they've got to watch that. There is a limit on the number of incidents that is normally in a session as well. So they've got to watch out for that one as well, and especially during qualifying when you've only got 2 laps to get it right. And now we can talk about the version 7 tyre model, which is extremely widely regarded as absolutely brilliant by a lot of drivers, which came in recently, and it is about as accurate as you're going to get with tyre modelling within simulators. The drivers have got to really work to get the tyres up to temperature. So when you've only got 8 laps, and 8 minutes and 2 laps, the drivers have their warm-up lap is so crucial. And a lot of them actually will negate the first lap and use that lap as an extra warm-up lap. So you will only get some drivers that only count 1 valid lap. So you see these guys weaving back and forth, trying to get temperature in the tyres, because when there is no temperature in the tyres, there is genuinely no grip. And especially when we talk about track temperature as well, the track temperature today is 27 degrees. And you see just how much steering lock he's putting on there to get through the corner and coming up the hill now. But the track temperature today, 27 degrees Celsius, 26 degrees air temperature. I know, it sounds very unlike the UK. 26 degrees Celsius and 55% humidity. But the track temperature, extremely important. When you get above 40 degrees Celsius, it gets extremely slick. But we're kind of in a nice spot right now with 26 degrees, 27 degrees Celsius. But you still got to work to get the tyres up to temperature. So now we head on to a lap of Oulton Park, the first lap that we're going to see with Oliver Clark in the number 62 car heading towards turn number 1. So we're looking for the times 125s, 126s. It's going to be difficult for guys to nail that sort of time. They had an hour to do it last time, but they've only got 2 chances to get it right this time. So even running wide too a little bit, you've got to be very careful there. Ollie Clark was right on the limit there. You've got to avoid the grass to avoid the 1Xs. Heading down towards the first hairpin. All looking nicely so far for him. Into the Shell Oils corner. Then 6, 7, 8 and 9 which come quick second. That was very wide from Ollie Clark there. I think he's now just backed out of that lap to try and get some temperature in the brakes and the tyres. This is what I was talking about just as we came into qualifying. Now you see the split time, so the green will mean personal best, yellow is not an improvement, and purple is fastest of all. Nico Varone comes across the line to finish his first lap, and he goes quickest. 1:27.1, we're going to be looking for times quicker than that, but that is the first official time. Ian Ahmed, 1:27.41. The times will be very close. Will Palmer just behind by a couple of hundredths of a second, just a hundredth of a second between him and Ian Ahmed. And now we look at Varone coming down the back of the circuit. And this is his second qualifying lap. We'll see what he's able to do as he comes through the bottom hairpin, Shell Oils corner into 6, 7, 8 and 9, which come in very quick succession. And now we see Kieran Vernon, second place, 300th behind Varone. So let's see if Varone is on an improvement. We're on board with him, just looking over his shoulder. Great camera shots here as he heads towards the turn number 10. 11 at Hislops, and then into Knickerbrook at turn 12, up Clay Hill. It's a very steep drag up Clay Hill right here. You just see they're almost like 45 degrees to the vertical, and then past the water tower into Druids, exactly the same name as the one in Brands Hatch. It's just as tough. Dropping down the hill then into Lodge and Deersley, Lodge corner. Now you see purple sectors in the middle, not an improvement in the 5th and 6th splits, and there you see Harrison Scott goes quickest. Can Verone displace him coming across the line? He does a 126.9, 126.6. He goes even 2/10 quicker. Nico Verone going quickest at the moment, ahead of Harrison Scott, ahead of Kieran Vernon, and then just popping into 3rd place by 0.03 of a second, Louis Foster, and then Will Palmer, then Kieran Vernon, Enam Ahmed, Johnny Adam 1.2 off. As now we look at Kieran Vernon coming through the last corner. He's on an improvement in the first couple of sectors, not an improvement in the other sectors. But let's see, is he able to improve his current time? Doesn't look like it. He stays 5th, ahead of Enam Ahmed, beat Bart Horston into 7th place. We now look at Bart Horston, who is on his 2nd qualifying lap by the looks of it. But Verone, Scott, and Foster are your top 3. Verone looking very, very quick out there. 126.6 is the current quickest, 2/10 of a second up. And we now look at Bart Horston. Jonathan Hoggard into 4th place by a couple of hundredths of a second. He pops into 4th place. Now we continue to look at Bart Horston on his lap. Very nice, staying so close to the tyre barrier there on the inside line. And into 4th goes Pryor by, again, just a small margin. The 4th, 5th and 6th are within the same 1/10 of a second, but that's how close it is around the lap, as short as Oulton Park. And now we continue with the lap of Bart Horston. Can he improve on 9th place? He only needs a couple of hundreds to get ahead of Enam Ahmed, who is in 8th place. He's secure enough with his position at the moment. Looks like nobody's going to improve on him. But let's see, Bart Horston is one of the last cars to complete his lap. Ayrton Simmons is going to complete his lap as well. And now let's see if Bart Horston can improve his position. He's done personal bests across all sectors apart from the second mini sector. So let's see, can he improve? He comes across the line. It is going to be an improvement, but where's it going to put him? It's going to put him in 3rd. Good lap, Bart Horston, 126.93, just 100th behind Harrison Scott, but that's a good lap from Bart Horston. It slots him into 3rd place on the grid, 2nd row, and standing start, of course. And we will continue, and we'll see if Mark is sorting his technical issues as we come to the end of qualifying. We now look at Piers Pryor, who is continuing his lap, and that's an improvement from Hoggard, so close between the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. And coming across the line, Piers Pryor, can he improve his position? He comes across, and he does the best sector of anybody in the last sector, and that's enough, just enough by a couple of thousandths. Still in front of Louis Foster, and Piers Pryor goes 5th ahead of Foster, but pole position is Nico Verone ahead of Harrison Scott, Bart Horston, Jonathan Hoggard, Piers Pryor, Louis Foster, Will Palmer, Kieran Vernon, and Enam Ahmed. Then Thomas Maxwell, Jamie Caroline, Jake Dalton, Oliver Clark, Josh Skelton, Johnny Adam, Josh Mason, Chris Middlehurst, Chris Malin, and a couple of guys who I think got invalidated laps. Ayrton Simmons, Vladimiros Tsurtsis, Ben Hingley, Nikolai Kiergaard, Wayne Douglas, Ulysses DePau, Ali Al Khalifa, and Tom Gamble did not set laps or had their laps invalidated, and that is how it can go sometimes. Qualifying comes to an end then, and Verone has got the job done. So let's have a look at your grid. So the British F3 iRacing Championship Ram Run Heat Race number 1. Nico Verone for Chris Dittman Racing. He starts on pole position. Harrison Scott, Douglas Motorsport starts in 2nd. Bart Horston for Lenan Racing ahead of Jonathan Hoggard for 4th sec. Piers Pryor in the other Lenan car in 5th. Louis Foster for Double R. Will Palmer, independent driver today. Kieran Vernon, Chris Dittman. And then we have Enam Ahmed in the Carlin car and Carter Williams in the JHR Developments car in 10th place. Then it's Thomas Maxwell, Jamie Caroline in the other Carlin car, just a row behind Enam Ahmed, Jake Dalton, Oliver Clark, Josh Skelton, Johnny Adam, the independent driver, and the guest driver for today in 16th. Josh Mason, Chris Middlehurst, Chris Malin, Ulysses DePau, Tom Gamble, Nikolai Kiergaard, Ali Al Khalifa, and Wayne Douglas in 24th on the grid. And Ali Al Khalifa, the Middle Eastern representative. Ayrton Simmons, Vladimir Tsurtsis, and Ben Hingley, 27th, and last on the grid for this heat race format. So we're almost ready to go as we get ready for heat race number 1. And remember, the race 2 is a totally reversed grid. So this is going to make for some interesting racing. Whoever wins will start 27th and last in the second race. So all is not lost. And there are championship points for the heat races as well. Let's not forget about that. But Nico Verone perhaps the most experienced esports guy on the grid. He's on pole position. Harrison Scott next to him, so it's going to be a job for Harrison Scott to get past Nico Verone. And let's see what he's able to do. Bart Horston, watch out for him as well. Very experienced guy in third place. Jonathan Hoggard as well. So all the esports guys are all within that top 4 and looking really, really strong. As we now 2 minutes is the amount of time the drivers have to grid up, and we're going to get ready in less than 10 seconds for the heat racing run of the British F3 iRacing Championship. Here we go. Lights are illuminating in front of the drivers. Nico Verone on pole. Scott next to him. Lights out and away we go. Good start from Verone. That's a good start from Scott. That's a good one from Hoggard as well on the inside. Good start from Horston as well. Hoggard straight up the inside of Horston into turn 1. He's going to try and take third place away from him. Looks like he's got it done. He has indeed. But a great start from Nico Verone. He's got the gap already over Harrison Scott. Then it's Hoggard, Horston, Pryor, Foster, Palmer, Vernon, Ahmed, and in Williams in 10th. And heading down the hill they go there for the first time. All looks clean. Didn't see too many incidents behind. As now coming through the first hairpin, Verone's got enough, almost got a 0.2 of a second gap already over Harrison Scott, coming under pressure from Jonathan Hoggard. Oh, he's got him in the rear. Touches him going through there. That'll be a 4x for Jonathan Hoggard. They got away with that. Very, very lucky to get away with that one. And a good driving from Harrison Scott to keep the car in check right there. Just Hoggard a little bit too much speed carried into the hairpin, but looks like he's definitely got more speed over Harrison Scott. In this early stage, got a spinner. Will Palmer, I think, lost it, or has lost places in the background. We saw a little bit of wheel smoke coming through there. And Will Palmer gets back going again. He's dropped a few places though. And just looking, it looks like that Louis Foster, Nikolai Kiergaard, and Ina Mach were all involved in a number of incidents there in lap number 1. But heading up the hill for the first time, Nico Verone, Harrison Scott, and a little battle happening behind. That looks like Kieran Vernon battling away, and Chris Meelan off the road into the barriers. He's going to keep it out of it just about. Gets it out of the gravel though. You'll see the Pow gets it back going again and gets back on track. Just looked like he lost it on the entry there. I wonder if there was contact. Doesn't look like there's any damage on the car, but he's just about managed to get going, and looks like possibly a problem or a jump start for Bart Horston, I would imagine, would be the drive-through penalty there. And they carry on, but Nico Verone leads Jonathan Hoggard. Mark, have we got you back?
You certainly have. Hopefully you can hear me now. Apologies, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah, several issues that we've had to try and sort out, but we're here. That's the main thing. Nico Verone with that fantastic start. As you said, Jonathan Hoggard looking to try and stick with him. Nico Verone, there he goes, just working his way out of Shell Oil's corner up towards the braking area for the left and right and left flick at Britain's chicane that will bring him over Hilltop. Very, very difficult braking area. Once you come over Hilltop, you're braking downhill in towards the Hislop chicane, but already Nico Verone, the Argentinian, in the lead of the race, looking to try and gap Jonathan Hoggard there in second position. Remember, Hoggard was quickest in testing earlier on in the week. He was the runner-up in the 2019 BRDC Formula 3 Championship. He's already won a BRDC Formula 3 race online this week as well in a separate championship. And, well, the youngster is looking to try and see whether he can close in. The good thing is, Jack, I suppose, is that he's got nobody hassling him behind at this stage, so he can just concentrate his efforts on Nico Verone up front and see whether he can just close that 2.1 second gap down as they come over the start-finish line and chalk a lap into the book.
Yep, all going to plan for Nico Verone at the moment. Jonathan Hoggard into second place, and Kieran Vernon, and then Pryor behind him. Will Palmer has got back going again. Just had a small issue in the chicane, but he's managed to get it going again. There was definitely issues for Bart Horston, and I believe he had a drive-through penalty. He's come through again. It could have been for a jump start, I would imagine. The drive-through penalty would be if... I thought his start was good, and I think it was a little bit too good. I think he got ahead of the lights a little bit, but all looking good for Nico Verone, Jonathan Hoggard, both guys who are vastly experienced within sim racing and esports in general. So now they'll just be looking to continue their forward momentum. And we got to remember as well, Mark, that we've got a reverse grid race in the feature, which is going to make for some interesting stuff.
It's going to make it very, very interesting. And usually, if you've seen BRDC Formula 3 real racing going on, usually the reverse grid race, which is race number 2 of the 3 that they have for the weekend, is a reduced number of points. In this E-Series, no, not at all. Full reverse grid, full maximum championship points. So it's 35 points for a race victory, even on the reverse grid race. There's Ayrton Simmons just heading down in towards the braking area for the Hislop chicane, looking to see whether he can close in on the car ahead, but also conscious that he's got somebody not that far behind him. It's Ulysse de Pauw, the Belgium driver for Douglas Motorsport, who is just up the road. And behind Simmons is Bart Horston, looking to try and make progress after his, as you suggested, jump start that he made. Ulysse de Pauw working his way out of Druids, down the straight underneath the Warwick Bridge and in towards the braking area for Lodge Corner. That's the corner whereas the entrance to the old Oulton Park is. Spin for Chris Middlehurst, who almost took somebody out there at Deer Leap, didn't he, as he rejoined?
Yeah, that was the man we were just looking at. Ulysse de Pauw just getting away by getting hit by Chris Middlehurst, who just lost it on the exit of that last corner, and he's now dropped right into this battle that we were just on. Bart Horston, and up ahead of him Ayrton Simmons. We were right on board with Bart Horston trying to recover something here. So now these guys were practicing in practice with running very, very close to one another, and the slipstream effect coming into its own here. So Horston needs to be kind of smart here. He doesn't want to try anything because he got a little he got a little touch in the rear coming into the hairpin right here, and he's now had to back off a little bit, but they got away with that one on lap 1 for sure.
The difficult thing at Oulton Park is you can get the toe, but it's such a narrowish circuit, very tight and twisty, so it's really, really difficult to try and pick your overtaking spot. It's not stopping Bart Horston though. He really wants to try and get by Chris Middlehurst. He's up the inside, heading in towards the braking area for Hislop. Sorry to cut across you there, Jack, and has gone through to take the place away. So Horston at the wheel of the number 50 Lannon Racing car gains a position. There is a spin for Ayrton Simmons, unfortunately. That was down at the Hislop chicane. He was at the tail end of that little train, and he's now got it pointing round in the right direction. And that will have dropped him now down to something like 14th, possibly even 15th place by the time he recovers.
Yeah, he's just getting overtaken by Jamie Caroline is there as well, and dropping into the guys who were involved in the lap 1 incident, Nikolai Kiergaard and Johnny Adam. Just looking at Verone's pace, it's lightning fast, I must say. He's setting purple lap after purple lap, and he's going a second a lap faster than Jonathan Hoggard each lap.
Yeah, he's just eking out that gap. Remember last time I mentioned it was 2.1 seconds. It's now nearly 4.5 first to second place. So it's opening up all of the time. The Argentinian using all of the curbs, but not too much as he turns his way through Britain's. Lap 5 already completed. Clock ticking, showing that there's now, less than 15 minutes of this race to go. Nice and neat and tidy still though from the Chris Dittman Racing prepared Dallara of Nico Veroni, accelerating his way out of Knickerbrook, starting to climb up Clay Hill where the speeds build, and then into the very difficult double apex right-hander at Druids Corner with this man here, Jonathan Hoggard, runner-up in the championship, the reigning Aston Martin Autosport BRDC award winner. He was also the Sunoco Whelan Challenge winner, was Jonathan Hoggard for 2020. So he's already done, there aren't that many drivers that have, but he has already done some real racing this year. He was competing in the Rolex Daytona 24 hours in January in a Lamborghini. And at the moment, he's going beautifully well in second place, but losing ground to the race leader. And he'll be conscious as well because he's getting caught, I think, very slightly by Kieran Vernon, who sits there in third place.
Yeah, for sure. Vernon's looking quick. Their personal best, 126.835. We're only a little bit slower that time by, but I think he's got enough of a gap now that he can back off and just hold off a little bit. Now, as well, Kieran Vernon is sort of dry. He's dragging Pryor with him as well. He's right with him as well, the number 21.
Yeah, Piers Pryor, another one of those drivers. I was at the media day at Snetterton when we launched the championship for real, and Piers Pryor had the largest grin on his face of any driver. He's just so grateful to be on the grid for this year, for real, hopefully when we get things up and running. It will be his first season of car racing. He's only done sporadic car races before, the likes of Formula 1000, where he won one of the races at Silverstone in an unfamiliar car. We've seen him out in the Mini Challenge and the MG Cup, but he's never really had the budget to do cars. He's a quick driver, we know that. He was the World Junior Karting Champion a few years back, but he'll be so keen to make a good impression in this British F3 iRacing Championship and in the main BRDC Formula 3 Championship when we get it going for real. And at the moment, he's sitting there in fourth place, looking to try and hang on to the coattails of the number 51 car of Kieran Vernon, the driver coach for Chris Dittman Racing. He's doing a very good job, is Piers Pryor, the 22-year-old.
Yeah, did an excellent job as well. Will Palmer as well in the background, just trying to break away from this little train. Looks like he has just a little bit. Just looking at the lap times, yeah, definitely 126.728. He's quicker. He's also matching the pace of Pryor and Vernon ahead of him. So I wonder if Vernon and Pryor start battling. I think Will Palmer could certainly get involved there.
The other driver I'm still keeping an eye towards as well is Bart Horston, who still is setting the odd little purple sector here and there. So he's lapping quicker than a chunk of cars ahead of him. Now, at the moment, Horston, after his sort of drive-through penalty for the jump start, is still down in 12th position, having qualified, third on the second row of the grid, wasn't it? Was where he qualified and then got too good a start. He is still lapping quicker than the cars ahead, and that's the important thing. Ulysse de Pauw will be the next of the cars that he's going to want to try and catch. Catching is one thing, getting past is another. First thing he needs to do there is close up the gap, because he's got plenty of clear road ahead. You can just see Ulysse de Pauw just working his way through Britons, whilst Bart Horston looks to try and close in on the Belgian as they head over Hilltop. We're almost now, Jack, at the halfway point of the race.
It's flying by, yeah. So the guys now just settling into a rhythm right now. There's no kind of massively close battles on track. But de Pauw's recovering well, considering on lap 1 he was in the gravel trap at Druids, trying to keep it out of the barrier. So he's done a good job to get it back going again. Of course, this won't make too much of a difference to his starting position. Of course, we always like to remind you that the full grid will be reversed. How about that? Jonathan Hoggard, fastest lap of the race.
Yeah, fantastic lap from Jonathan Hoggard, really pushing hard. 1 minute 26.29 from Jonathan Hoggard, so that's just chipped away at the gap that exists between him and the car just up the road. You can still see it in sight, and that's the important thing. Nico Verone still leading the race, but Hoggard pushing it hard as he possibly can, and has now managed to gap Kieran Vernon in third place to a larger degree. Piers Pryor, Will Palmer, Jake Dalton complete the top 6. Then it's Oliver Clark, Chris Meelan, Ali Al Khalifa, and Vladimir Tjoitsis, the Cypriot, who wraps up the top 10 at the moment. But Hoggard pushing beautifully hard. The good thing about iRacing, I suppose, is that you can push hard. You know that if you make a slight mistake, that you might just be able to get away with it. But of course, they will also be conscious that the settings on the server for the British F3 iRacing Championship are full damage. You can go and get quick repairs, but there is full damage.
Yep, so the drivers have unlimited fast repairs, which I think they'll be thanking the owners, the organisers for that one. But yeah, the damage model is extremely vicious, so you really don't want to get involved in an instant, because if you even slightly come into contact with somebody a little bit too hard, the wheels will snap off the car. We now look at Williams and Maxwell going at it right here. This will be 15th place, I think. So even though we're all the way down in 15th place, I think the battles will still rage on because of that reverse grid.
Yeah, it really will. Yeah, we're going to see some great battles going on. Carter Williams was who we were concentrating on, finished 7th in the British Formula 4 Championship. He has done some racing over in America as well. He was the Formula Car Challenge West Coast champion back in 2017, and he's looking to try and close in on Tom Maxwell, who finished 7th in the BRDC Formula 3 Championship with Sean Walkinshaw Racing back in 2016. We didn't see a great deal of Tom on the podium that year. I think he only had one podium, and since leaving the BRDC Formula 3 Championship, we've really concentrated and done very well on racing Porsches over in his native Australia. He's just threading his way out of Druids, down the straight that bring them up towards Lodge Corner, sitting there in 15th position at the moment, but with the 16th place car right behind him. There are now some 7.5 minutes of the race still to go. Nico Verone still leading the race out front, but battles all the way continuing down through the order. And for Nico Verone, traffic is the next thing that he's going to have to contend with here, Jack.
Exactly, so that's another element as well. You got to make sure that you get through the traffic safely. So, of course, blue flags will be in effect. There are stewards watching as well, who will be taking a note of all of the incidents as well. Just a quick note as well, if for some of you who may be new, just if you see little red flashes coming up occasionally on the graphic, that is an indication that the driver has been a little bit naughty and run off the track and gained an incident point. So we literally, just as I said, you just see Will Palmer has got a 1x there as well. Verone ran wide at turn 1. So they've got to be careful not to push the limits too much. But there's also an element of taking advantage of off-tracks when you can, if there is a limit on them. But now we see Will Palmer under pressure from, actually a lot of pressure from Dalton behind.
is, yeah, Jake Dalton looking to try and apply the pressure to Will Palmer. They head in towards the braking area for Shell Oil's corner. Palmer takes a nice tight line in. The banked part of that circuit allows Jake Dalton to take a slightly wider line, but Jake Dalton is in that dichotomy, really. He wants to attack, but he's also got to be conscious that he might need to defend, because he's got Oliver Clark right behind him. So 3 as 1, fighting over 5th, 6th and 7th positions, and Jake Dalton is the meat in the sandwich as they head in towards the braking area for the Hislops chicane. Will Palmer still managing to hang on to the place, but really is going to have to soak up this pressure now for the remaining, 5 and a bit minutes, 5 3/4 minutes of this race. 10 laps already completed, 15 minutes almost elapsed, and this is the fight, as we say, for 5th, 6th and 7th place. Jonathan Hoggard, though, in 2nd place, looks so he might be on for a good lap this time through.
Yeah, looking good. Let's see what he does across the line here. Hoggard just now, that could have been a result of the traffic up ahead. Let's have a look. 127.1, 26. He's a second faster than Nico Verone ahead of him. Yeah. And I've just been informed, actually, there is a 20x incident limit. So the drivers really have got to be careful if they're running off the track too much. They can just be automatically disqualified. So now we've got to watch Hoggard, how he negotiates the traffic with Jamie Caroline up ahead.
Yeah, he's got to be careful, hasn't he? Just make sure that he is as close to him as he can be and see what he might be able to do. I'm just looking at the progress of Bart Horston. Well, he now seems to have plateaued a little bit. He is sort of bottled up down in 13th position. He was lapping quicker than the cars ahead of him, and in fact now he's just dropped down into 14th place, because I think Tom Maxwell has gone through, has he? Let's have a look. No, Bart Horston's still there. He was showing in 13th, dropped to 14th, but it's now back in 12th, so there must be some shuffling in the order there, possibly. That could just be the graphics.
Yep, he's in a perfect place right now, really. He's not catching Depot, and he's got about 9 seconds ahead of Chris Middlehurst behind him. And they've also got like about a 20-second gap back to the next car. So they've got plenty. But Hoggard took a second out of Verone that lap, and Jamie Carolan certainly moved out of the way very nicely for Jonathan Hoggard that time. So we'll wait and see if Hoggard is going to be able to sustain that. But now we look back at Will Palmer, and Jake Dalton has not really been able to make a move past, but again, it's so difficult to overtake around here.
It is just so difficult, yeah, and I'm not going to stop Jake Dalton trying if there's an opportunity, but he's really reliant on a mistake from Will Palmer, potentially, to just give him that split-second advantage that he needs. They'll head over the start-finish line in towards the braking area for Oulton corner, the first corner, and from there it's build the speeds again, shift up through the gearbox, down the avenue in towards Denton's, hard on the brakes, and in towards Cascades. Very, very easy to run wide on the exit of the corner, but Jake Dalton nice and neat and tidy as we still continue to look at the gearbox of Will Palmer. And there, oh, what a shame that was. That was Ali Al Khalifa, wasn't it, that had the problem?
Yeah, it just looks like he lost on the exit of the bottom hairpin there into the wall. And Ayrton Simmons looking like he's going slowly as well, so he's been involved in something there. And let's see if we can see what happened to Ayrton Simmons. Not seeing anything on my end there, unfortunately, but it looks like he just spun it there. So a little unfortunate for Ayrton Simmons. So I think he's struggling with the rear end of that car. It seems to be really loose on him today, Ayrton Simmons. That's, I think, his third spin, and Jake Dalton's off as well. Lost the rear end of the car, and it looked like he just lost it on the brakes there. Oh no, he's got involved as well. There's multiple cars involved right there. Unfortunately, Ulysses DePau as well. He's definitely not happy with Jake Dalton there. Oh dear.
No, Ulysses DePau was not happy at all with Jake Dalton. We didn't actually, on my screen, I didn't quite see exactly what caused the original issue for Jake Dalton. My cameras seem to have gone very strange again all of a sudden. But we do know that with the clock now ticking away, there's only, 2.5 minutes remaining, and Nico Verone is looking very good here for a potential win, is he not? He did all the hard work in the early stages. He seemed to get that break over Jonathan Hoggard and has really just controlled it from the front. Beautiful, beautiful driving from him. We know he's a quick guy, so he has done some BRDC Formula 3 in the past 9 races in 2019. But has got lots and lots of esports experience, and the combination of the two seems to be the perfect thing for this evening for him.
Yeah, for sure. He has got some lap traffic to deal with now. He's catching up to Nikolai Kiergaard, I think that is, up ahead of him, who is now embroiled in his own battle as well. That's Nikolai Kiergaard and Enam Ahmed. So he's got to negotiate these guys, and we now have close to just a minute to go, so that this next lap will be the last lap in this heat race. And Hoggaard's brought the gap down to 1.5 seconds now, which is really interesting. Hoggaard's flying behind, but he's going to run out of laps. So Verone's really controlled this very nicely, I must say. He's heading through the last corner. We go. Jonathan Hoggaard following, as the white flag should come out as the guys are on this final lap. And we'll see now Nico Verone if he can hold on to this one. He's got a gap of 1.5 seconds over Jonathan Hoggaard behind him. Enam Ahmed is going to be a lapped car up ahead of him, so he's going to negotiate that hopefully. And Hoggaard negotiates Nikolai Kiergaard and brings the gap down to 1.4 seconds over Verone. He can't switch off here because Hoggaard's actually right there. And there is championship points on the line right here. There is just over the hill in the background. That is Jonathan Hoggaard as Verone catches Enam Ahmed now into the hairpin. He cannot afford to get held up here too much. Verone needs to make sure he doesn't get involved in anything silly. Just make sure he holds off. Enam Ahmed moves out of the way very, very nicely indeed for Verone. And Hoggaard, I think, should also come through there. And he does indeed. So Hoggaard now still 1.4 behind, but Verone, I think, should just have enough to hold on here, doing very, very nicely. The Argentinian has driven beautifully so far and is on course to take this heat race win. But unfortunately, he will start last on the grid next time. And we head across to the ticking of the clock at the top goes to 20 minutes, and this will be the checkered flag as we come across the line for heat race 1. But Verone will start last, but it's all important championship points. As he heads towards the last corner at Lodge and over Deers Leap, Nico Verone through the last corner. No such problems today. Over the top of Deers Leap, Nico Verone wins Heat Race 1 of the British F3 iRacing Championship. Jonathan Hoggaard second place behind him, and Kieran Vernon in third. Piers Pryor, then Will Palmer, Oliver Clark, and then Milan Horston driven very well. And then 9th and 10th rounded out by Tsursis and Middlehurst. So Chris Milan and then Bart Horston coming through the last corner. Now he's driven very, very well. Considering he had a drive-through penalty, Bart Horston has driven incredibly well to come back to 8th place. And then Tsursis and then Middlehurst and then a couple of lap cars coming across the line. Then Ali Al Khalifa actually will be, he is still circulating because even though he was in the wall, he did get his fast repair. And then Johnny Adam in 16th. Jake Dalton, who we saw also in the wall. Enam Ahmed. And just going to, of course, work out who's going to be starting last. And I think it could be Wayne Douglas. We'll have to double check that one as well. But we'll get results very, very shortly as the last couple of cars come across the line. A few incidents, but very, very clean overall. Before we head into the feature race, of course, we will have a 10-minute warm-up, or cool-down as I like to call it. And we'll head into a 20-minute feature race reverse grid. So the same length that you just saw here in Heat Race 1 will be also for the feature race. And during the warm-up, we should hopefully have a few drivers in with us as well. Here's hoping. As I think Mark is also having problems again. I'm back
with you on audio, but I am still having a few technical issues. But what a fantastic race from Nico Verone and Jonathan Hoggaard, and really impressed with Kieran Vernon. You know, we know he's the quick driver when he was a kart racer some years ago, multiple karting champion. He's one of the oldest drivers that we've got in this field for the British Formula 3 iRacing Championship. I think he's 30 years of age now. I think there's only Johnny Adam in the entry list that would be older. But considering he doesn't race much, he does mainly driver coaching now. Really, really, really impressed with the way that he went.
Exactly. So we're just having a quick rundown of the Heat Race 1 results. 35 points and first place. Nico Verone, Jonathan Hoggaard in second. Then Kieran Vernon, Piers Pryor, Will Palmer, Oliver Clark, Chris Milan, Bart Horston, Vladimir Tsursis and Chris Middlehurst. Then Tom Maxwell, Joss Mason, Carter Williams, Josh Skelton, Ali Al Khalifa, Johnny Adam, Jake Dalton, Ulysses DePau in 18th. And then further down and in the last points paying positions, Enam Ahmed and Ben Hingley, so top 20 get points. Outside of that, Ayrton Simmons, Nikolai Kiergaard, Harrison Scott, Jamie Caroline, Louis Foster, Tom Gamble and Wayne Douglas, non-finishers in that one, but we believe they should be starting on the front row of the grid next time, if they make the grid, that is.
Yeah, it is a full reverse grid, isn't it? So even the non-starters do take up a place towards the front end of the grid, which wouldn't be the case in the regular reverse grid for the BRDC Formula 3 Championship. So hopefully we'll be able to grab a quick word with some of our drivers. The top three will be joining us in live commentary shortly, Jack, so that we can sort of have a chat to them and catch up with some of their thoughts, and also particularly Nico Veroni, not just the race that we've seen, but what's coming up. What a task he's got to come off the back of the grid if he wants to try and make it a double win.
Yeah, exactly. He's definitely got some work to do to come from the back of the grid. I think our top three are actually waiting for us, Mark. So I'm going to drag and get Nico Veroni in here. So Nico, thanks for joining us. And a fantastic race from yourself. Just led from the front, no such problems, and away you went.
Yeah, hi guys, how are you? Yeah, it was a great race. We managed to get pole. That is really, really difficult in a circuit like Oulton Park. You have only 2 laps, and you have to manage to get it done. And yeah, I could do it. Then obviously I could get a good start, and then from there start pulling off. I made a gap, and then start managing, the difference with Hogarth that was in second. That was coming really fast. I was like managing the distance, because here if you go all the laps pushing to the limit, you can make a mistake and hit the barrier. So yeah, it was a great race in the end, and we could take the victory.
Nico, you look at what you've just done there, full reverse grid. Your thoughts on that? Oulton Park is not an easy circuit to overtake, and you're all on exactly the same setups in the iRacing server, so it's going to be tough, isn't it, race 2?
Yeah, I think it's gonna be really, really tough. Coming really fast driver from the back. So yeah, I think it's gonna be like we will have to wait and see what happens in front, if there are incidents or something, and then from the middle of the race start pushing to get many positions as we can.
Well done on the win. Congratulations, and all the very best for race 2, the reverse grid race.
Thank you. Cheers.
So there we go, Nico Veroni. We're going to grab a quick word with Jonathan Hogarth, who finished in second position. So Jonathan's going to join us in the commentary box. Hi, Jonathan. It's Mark Werrell. Well done. Couldn't quite match the pace of Nico Veroni, but you were never far away, mate.
Yeah, thank you. Struggled a little bit at the start, made a few mistakes, and then I think he got held up a little bit with traffic towards the end there, and I was catching him quite a bit, but just not enough laps really.
Your thoughts on race 2? We were just talking to Nico, off the back of the grid, there's work to be done. Yeah,
definitely. I think try and get best of getaway as I can off the line, and then it's just going to be a case of taking it patiently. I think there's going to be a few incidents on lap 1 or throughout the race, so just take it nice and patiently.
Where do you think you can get? We've got a full grid of very talented drivers, much like yourself. How far up do you think you'll be able to get within the time allocation?
To be honest, I don't think too high. If everyone finishes, if everyone does well, I think it won't be too high, just because of the dirty air and how narrow the track is. But yeah, hopefully I can make up a couple more positions than I'm thinking.
Well, we'll let you get ready for race number 2. Congratulations, Jonathan. All the best in race 2.
Thanks very much. Thank you.
Then we'll grab a quick word, or we'll get Jack to grab a quick word with, first of all, with the driver that finished in 3rd position. Now joins us in the commentary box. Kieran Vernon's with us. Jack, over to you.
Yeah, thanks a million, Mark. Kieran, yeah, really good race from yourself, actually. It looks like you were comfortable sitting in there in 3rd place, and confident heading into the reverse grid race as well?
Yeah, definitely. I was quite annoyed to qualified 8th because I dropped a wheel off on my 2nd lap, and it was definitely good enough for 2nd and 1st. So I was sitting in 8th. I was a bit disappointed, but then to get through into P3, by the time I got there, it was a bit of a big gap to Jonathan. I know Jonathan's fast, so I just kind of went at a pace I felt comfortable with, and just made sure I held off peers behind me. So very pleased to have 2 CDR cars on the podium for the first round. So yeah, very pleased with that. So, and well done to Nico and Jonathan, obviously, for top 2.
Go on.
Sorry,
so many questions.
Yeah, just finally, Kieran. Of course, you're heading into the reverse grid race now. How tricky is it to overtake around here?
It's really tough to overtake around Oulton Park. It's a very narrow circuit, as you know. But anything's possible. I'm going in survival mode now, so just try and get through the first few laps and then just see where we end up and hopefully pick up some points.
Well, very, very good luck in the race, Kieran. All the best.
Thank you. Cheers.
There we go. So that's our top 3. Sorry, just to cut across you there, Jack, for a split second. I wasn't sure whether you were going for the next question or me, but no. So it's nice to chat to our top 3 drivers, and it is, it's always good to catch up with them after the race. But they'll be, like any racing driver, whether it be esports, iRacing, whether it be real racing, they'll be now switching themselves, an alt control delete, a full reset, and get themselves back into race mode.
Yeah, exactly. It's what I've always found, that the drivers actually really like the quick little warm-up session before the feature race as well. It's 10 minutes. I don't like to call it a warm-up because the drivers often refer to it as a cool-down coming off the back of a heat race. You know, the adrenaline's still pumping. You need to kind of get yourself back into the idea that I've got to do this again.
And they certainly will. And for some of them, interesting comment from Nico Verone, which is the way I would approach it, is maybe if you're coming off the back in this race, just hang back, wait for the mistakes to happen and pick a few drivers off. I know you do a chunk of e-racing, I do a little bit of e-racing as well, and sometimes if you don't qualify that well, just wait for the mistakes and you can soon gain some places, and that's what Nico Verone will be hoping will happen. A little bit of contact, a few drivers having some misfortune, as we saw in race number 1, and he'll slowly pick his way through the order.
Yeah, for those of you who obviously play iRacing and remember your days in the rookie class, it was always the strategy was to nearly start from the back, avoid the instance, and drive through everything, which is of course the way to level up the licensing system within iRacing, going from rookie, D, C, and then up to B, A, and then pro license. So these guys, they're smart. Real racing comes into effect in sim racing as well, and. But it is going to be really interesting to see how Verone and Hogard pick their way through the field from the very back. It's always really interesting to see how the top guys come through the traffic.
And they always seem to, don't they? You might see them struggle to get past a couple of cars at some point of the race, but then they'll pick the next 2 or 3 off. And as with anything in life, the cream usually rises to the top. But as Jonathan Hoggard was saying, he doesn't expect to rise that far, largely because it's such a competitive field that we've got out there with I think we've got, is it 2 or 3 former Ginetta Junior champions, and it doesn't seem, we're just talking to Kieran Vernon, he's now the older statesman really amongst all of the entries, and it doesn't seem 5 minutes since Kieran was in Ginetta Juniors when I was commentating on him. But yeah, it's real quality field, and a bit like Kieran was saying, it's all going to come down to qualifying for the first race. He dropped the wheel off. That didn't put him where he wanted to be. He had to work really hard to even find himself onto the podium, and now he's got to work even harder from the back of the grid.
Exactly. So you cannot afford to make mistakes in a reverse grid race, and it's always a very, very daunting experience for guys who maybe don't have the pace, but then they're suddenly thrust to the front of the grid. And they've got some very, very fast guys to try and keep behind. Now 20 minutes actually is not that long to get through a field of 27 cars. So if the guy on pole position gets enough of a gap on lap 1 and just holds himself there, and he might not have the pace, but it's certainly enough to just hold off and maybe try and grab a feature race win and try and keep possibly Verone or Hogard if they manage to get to the front. So we'll wait and see how it goes, but we're getting very close to getting to the race start right now.
We're not far away. Oulton Park's certainly one of those circuits. If you just position the car where you need it to be, get cleanly off the corners, it almost makes it impossible for people to get by. In stark contrast to where we'll be 6 o'clock next Sunday, where we'll head over to Belgium, virtually at least, to Spa-Francorchamps on the Grand Prix circuit, where there will be a lot of slipstreaming, a lot of overtaking, particularly on the Kemmel Straight, if nothing else. In this free practice session, the warm-up session, it's now just clicked over. Harrison Scott has gone the quickest in this session. Let's see as to what he might be able to do when we get the grid fully lined up. So checkered flag falls, which means that we are now going to get the grid lined up for this reverse grid race. So Wayne Douglas starts on pole position with Tom Gamble alongside. It's Louis Foster and Jamie Caroline on row number 2. Watch out for Jamie Caroline, I would say. And watch out for the third row of the grid as well. Harrison Scott and Nikolai Kierguy didn't have the roll of the dice in race number 1. Ayrton Simmons and Ben Hingley on row 4, ahead of NM Ahmed, former champion, and Ulysse DePau, who also had his problems on row number 5. And row 6 is Jake Dalton, and 4 times British GT champion and Le Mans class winner Johnny Adams. Next row of the grid, row 7 sees Ali Al Khalifa and Josh Skelton. Row 8 is Carter Williams and Josh Mason. Tom Maxwell and Chris Middlehurst on row number 9. Vladimir Tjoitsis and Bart Horston. Let's hope that he doesn't jump at the start this time. He could be one to watch out for on row number 10. Chris Meelan and Ollie Clark. And then it's Will Palmer and Piers Pryor that line up on row number 12. And then down towards the very, very tail of the grid is where we see the drivers we've just spoken to. Kieran Vernon, Jonathan Hoggard on row 13. And at the front of the grid is Nico Verone. Red lights on, red lights go out now, and it looks as though it's a good start from pole position from Louis Foster. Jamie Caroline wasn't off the line too shabbily either, so he slots into second place, albeit Ayrton Simmons is trying to go around the outside, and there's big contact at the first corner. Jake Dalton has been involved in that one. And who else was involved as well? Nikolai
Nikolai
Kiergaard, I
Kiergaard.
think, was involved, wasn't it? Yeah. Nikolai Kiergaard and Harrison Scott, I think it was, yeah. But up front, Louis Foster under pressure for the lead of the race, with Tom Maxwell looking to try and thread his way through, but I think Kieran runs very, very, very wide. And Ayrton Simmons is going to go into the gravel and get collected by, unfortunately, another car. We thought it was all going to kick off on the first lap. It has done, because Josh Skelton is also trying to thread his way out of the gravel, and all of this has played beautifully into the hands of Ben Hingley and Enem Ahmed, who have fought their way through the traffic beautifully. And Nico Verone, he thought things might happen on lap number 1, and he's already up into something like 11th, isn't he, off the back of the grid?
Yeah, and as well, Jonathan Hoggard's gone with him. So Hoggard's leading Verone as they head through. There's up to 10th and 11th. They started 27th. Can I just remind you? 27th and 26th on the grid. Hoggard and Verone, we talked about it. Avoid the instance and you'll get through. Yep. So Hoggard and Verone now go together. And now let's see how much they can do. I think what they got to do is Verone's just got to follow Hoggard. They cannot afford to battle now.
No, they'll wait until later in the race. They'll just slowly work their way up through the order. And every time the door is opened by, say, the car that's ahead, which is Jonathan Hoggard, and Verone will try and squeeze his way through Nico Verone, if not at the same corner, then maybe the next one. We'll wait and see. Here is Ben Hingley. He runs in 3rd position at the moment, but he's got Ulysse de Pauw and Enem Ahmed right with him. There's contact, and Ulysse de Pauw makes contact with Ben Hingley. A big, big, big accident for Ulysse de Pauw, who rolls a couple of times and has again got involved in an incident as he did in race number 1, and already we can see several cars all sitting there in the pit lane, and now that means that Enem Ahmed, the BRDC Formula 3 champion with Carlin Motorsport in 2017, is up into 3rd position, and of course that gives further place gains potentially to Jonathan Hoggard and Nico Verone, albeit were they delayed by that incident, I think.
I wonder, but they've latched onto the back of Pryor, Clark and Middlehurst. We've got a nice little train forming here. This is for 5th place. That was a huge accident for Ulysse de Pauw. Spinning a couple of times on the top of the airbox, not exactly what the way you want a car to be, but now we ride on board with Hoggard. He's right on the back of the diffuser of Pryor as we run up Clay Hill.
Yeah, so Piers Pryor looking to attack and defend at exactly the same time. It's all getting very, very tight, but we've seen enough contact already. Let's hope that the all-keys pit nice and clean as they head through the daunting Druids corner. Unbelievably quick in these Formula 3 cars with all of the downforce that they are able to utilise through the quick corners. And looks as though Jonathan Hoggard might try and pick another couple of places here, but no, he gets boxed in, and then there's further contact directly ahead of him and off and into the barriers. That's Chris Middlehurst that's gone off and into the barriers there. So that's another incident, and Jonathan Hoggard is still somehow, despite all of his efforts, just picking his way through all of the incidents, isn't he?
That was massive. Hoggard was so lucky. Let's have a look at what happened. Enem Ahmed, I think, triggered it. So here we go. Rounding the last corner. Does he spin? He does. Jamie Carlin spun at the same time as well. Carter Williams goes through. They make contact. And now let's see. Oh, Carlin rejoins in front of them. Oh, no. Jamie Carlin into Chris Middlehurst. Enem Ahmed kept out of it. I don't know how Jonathan Hoggard did not pick up damage. He hit the barrier side on, kept going. But oh dear, so that was a double spin for Enem Ahmed, if not for Enem Ahmed, but Jamie Carlin, followed by Enem Ahmed, and now they've managed to carry on. But yeah, Hoggard's got damage, he's dropping back. Yeah, such a shame for Jonathan Hoggard. He thought he might be able to avoid some of the carnage, but he was involved in that, 5-car battle, and then with Jamie Caroline probably not fully realising and a little bit unsighted that the cars were coming round through what was Lodge Corner and Deer Leap at the time, and just rejoined directly ahead of that train of cars and involved Jonathan Hoggard in the incident. Louis Foster still out front and leading. The American, though, Carter Williams, is there in 2nd place, and despite the damage, where's Jonathan Hoggard circulating at the moment? He is circulating in 7th place, so he's got that damage to carry for a fair old chunk of the race now. 15 minutes plus of the race still to go, and Jonathan Hoggard is going to have his work cut out. In fact, dives for the pit lane, did he, by the look of things? I think, yeah, into the pit lane comes Jonathan Hoggard. Not happy to carry the damage, Jack. No, and he is going to be able to utilise the fast repair as well. I think it's a left rear suspension damage by the looks of it. So Verone moves to 5th now, and he's right behind Jamie Carlin. Enem Ahmed, I must say, he's still going with him. Ahmed's sticking with him here, so he might try and follow Verone here. But interesting to note, the fastest lap of the race currently is held by Ollie Clark in 3rd place, who is circulating very well, but Louis Foster is still out there at the moment. Verone, extremely lucky, I think, to keep himself out of those incidents. And now he's just got to be careful, not try anything stupid here and stick into 5th place. But Enam Ahmed trying to stick with him now, and he could certainly capitalise if Caroline and Verone start battling too hard.
Yeah, Jamie Caroline at the moment is the cork in the bottle. Nico Veroni would dearly like to get through because he can see that Enam Ahmed in 6th place is growing ever larger in his mirrors. But for the moment, there's not that many overtaking opportunities coming up. There'll be nothing to do really up at Druids. He might be able to get a run round through Druids and see whether he can sneak through on the inside, heading up in towards Lodge Corner. He's going to try and switch back, but Jamie Caroline, I think, moves the Dallara to the centre and then towards the full right-hand side of the circuit. So Veroni now has to try on the outside, but also watches mirrors and prevent Ahmed coming through, and a spin for Caroline solves the problem. Through goes Nico Verone up to 4th place, through goes Enam Ahmed up to 5th, and a full 360-degree spin. Jamie Caroline lost 2 places, but is undamaged and still in the race.
Yeah, certainly a 0 out of 10 for the corner, but a 10 out of 10 for the spin. Must say, very nicely recovered from Jeremy Carolan. But that puts Nico Verone, who, we just remind you again, he started 27th on the grid and he's into 4th already. Enam Ahmed now going with him. So now Nico Verone has got a chance to try and catch up to Ollie Clark in 3rd. Fast lap of the race goes to Piers Pryor in 9th place at the moment. So running high 26s at the moment. But it's still Louis Foster who leads this race. Out front, there he is. He's got 5.3 seconds, 6.5 seconds, excuse me, back to Carter Williams. So actually, I would not put it past Foster to kind of hold on. If he keeps his nose clean, I think he might be able to hold on to the race win here.
Yeah, Louis Foster going well. Only 16 years of age is Louis Foster as well. He was 3rd in the British Formula 4 Championship last year when he was racing for RR, which is who we'll be racing with in the 2020 season of the BRDC Formula 3 Championship when we get it up and running. He was also runner-up in, Ginetta Juniors back in 2018 as well, Louis Foster. So despite his relative tender age, he's always been at the sharp end. And he's going beautifully well here. Over the start-finish line he'll go, chalks another lap into the book, still has a handsome margin really between himself and Carter Williams, so not really coming under pressure. There's several seconds between the pair of them, and that's a spin, that's Ollie Clark, and that again, Lodge Corner seems to be catching them out, doesn't it?
Yeah, and that's I think that's the 4th or 5th time somebody spun right there. So Ollie Clark now gifts Nico Verone 3rd place straight into the pit lane. You can see the left rear, you can see it's punctured. Let's see, here we look at Ollie Clark, who was right on the back of Carter Williams actually. He was fighting for 2nd place. So into Lodge Corner, he loses it on the entry, straight around, and then Bart Horston was so lucky to get through there as well, so he gets the car spun around again, but he ends up backing it into the barrier. He's actually really struggling to get it back facing in a straight line. Ollie Clark reverses it into the barrier and then eventually gets going again. These cars are very difficult to get back on, and Lodge Corner is an extremely difficult corner to get the car facing back the right way. And Ollie Clark now just stopped at the entrance to the exit of the pit lane, heads straight back in. Unfortunately, I think that's going to be a DNF for Ollie Clark, unfortunately.
That's such a shame. I mean, what do you think happened there at Lodge? He didn't seem to carry too much apex speed. You maybe turned it on the brakes?
Yeah, it looks like it. It seemed a little strange to lose it on the entry, yeah. I think it certainly looked like it was possibly just a braking issue, I'd imagine. And but unfortunately, that is him out of the race. And now Verone is on the podium after starting last on the grid.
Yeah, so a staggering performance. We thought he would go well, but crumbs, and his lap times at the moment are quicker than both Carter Williams up the road in 2nd place and quicker than race leader Louis Foster. So with still 11 minutes of the race to go, it's not done and dusted yet for Nico Verone, is it? He is pushing as hard as he possibly can. 1 minute 26.43 is the fastest lap of the race that we've seen so far. So the Argentinian is pushing hard to try and catch this yellow number 58 car of the American for JXR Developments, Carter Williams. And it'd be nice to have a new name in BRDC Formula 3. JXR have done some great things in single-seater racing on the TOCA package over the years, but we've not as yet seen them competing for real in the BRDC Formula 3 Championship. They are, therefore, this evening, making their debut competitively in British Formula 3, albeit iRacing.
Yep, so that's why at least they have got to do some kind of racing, even in the virtual sense, JHR. Great to see them out on track eventually. Now you'll just see at the bottom of your screen how quick Nico Verone is gone. He's taken 2.4 seconds out of Carter Williams in the past 2 laps. He's absolutely flying. Verone he will catch him at this rate, of course. It's just the question has got to be asked. Can Nico Verone catch Louis Foster?
begs the question, doesn't it? Yeah, I think the inevitable will happen for Carter Williams, but he then needs to try and close that gap on Louis Foster, who is out front. But for the moment, Carter Williams is doing a good job. He'll perhaps realise he's under a little bit more pressure. Nico Verone has got traffic to deal with. That was Chris Middlehurst, I think, the black car that he was looking to try and come up against. So he's got that to deal with. Chris Middlehurst is having his own little battle with, I think that will be the battle for 11th and 12th place, Bart Horston, isn't it, that's just ahead of Chris Middlehurst. But both of these cars should be lapped by our third place car, Nico Verone. Can't afford to be compromised though, can he? Needs to get past at least one of them, heading down Lakeside and up towards Island Bend, but he's not quite going to do it. Chris Middlehurst is not letting him through, so he'll have to sit behind him all the way through Shallall's corners. I suspect all the way through Britain's, and only at Hilltop and up towards Hislop's will he finally get released from the grasp of the back markers.
Yeah, trying his best to show himself in the mirrors of Chris Middlehurst now. So his opportunity should be down this section of straight right now. So we'll see if Verone can get it. He's shown himself in the mirrors. He's like, please let me past. So see if he can get past. Moves it back to the inside. Middlehurst defending there a little bit. I wonder, does he I wonder if he's trying to hold up Verone a little bit here. Seems a little bit interesting to be defending against a car that's trying to lap you.
Yeah, unusual, and I suspect that, yeah, he probably isn't aware that Nico Verone is trying to put a lap on him. You'd think he'd blend out of the throttle just here, heading up towards what is Druid's corner, but still not happening, and that's a full lap now that Nico Verone has been held up behind the back marker. Remember, the lap prior to catching the back markers, he set the fastest lap of the race. Now all of that hard work has very quickly become unpicked through no fault of his own, and now diving up the inside goes Enem Ahmed to gain the place, up to third. Fantastic stuff from the former champion. Nico Verone fighting back as they come over Deer Leap, but what an opportunistic move there from Enem Ahmed. The champion from 2017 grabs the final podium spot for the moment.
Yeah, definitely caught Verone napping there. I wonder, is Verone, did he open the door to try and maybe see, Ahmed, you have a go. Let's see if he can get past. But all this is costing them time, costing them chunks of time, and it's just going to open the gap to Louis Foster, who's still in the lead, by the way. Oh, he's in the wall! No! Foster's in the wall! He's lost on the exit of the hairpin. I've just cursed him. I'm so sorry, Louis Foster. But he's got it going again. I don't think he's got damage. But now, Carter Williams should take the lead here into the chicane. No, Foster holds on for now. But that's a massive mistake from Louis Foster. He was out in front by nearly 8 seconds, and he might have just blown it.
Oh, what a mistake for Louis Foster, and now he is really under pressure from Carter Williams down in towards the braking area for the Hislop chicane. He can't afford to make another mistake. Enem Ahmed is a little way off these pair, but now they're going to squabble and hold each other up, which allows Enem Ahmed in third and Nico Verone in fourth, maybe to close in again as well. But Louis Foster has had the pace all race. One little small mistake has cost him quite dear. He managed to refocus very, very quickly, and that's the difficult thing, is that you make a mistake, you get out of that zone that you're in as a driver, and therefore you make another mistake or another small error, or you don't quite have the confidence. And he seems to have forgotten about that already, Louis Foster, and is already looking to try and gap Carter Williams. Carter Williams has got a lapped car behind him at this stage, offering a bit of encouragement, that being the car in 11th place. So Bart Horston is pushing hard, isn't he, looking to try and unlap himself if he can.
Yeah, he's well within his rights to unlap himself there, but just Foster might not be. I think he's okay, because he's been lapping about a second a lap quicker than Carter Williams behind him, so he might have just survived that one. Had Louis Foster, but that'll certainly have rattled him. But he's kept going. He's refocused his head, so really nicely done. But Carter Williams now under pressure from Bart Horston. Enem Ahmed is still firmly in third place. Nico Verone has eventually managed to get past Chris Middlehurst. But you can see how much time it's cost him. He's dropped 1.3 off the back of Enem Ahmed, and essentially he's lost him at a podium place as well.
It has. It was all going beautifully well for Nico Verone, and to be fair, fourth off the back of the grid still isn't a bad result if it stays where it is. But there's another 6 minutes of the race to go, and maybe Nico Verone is going to stoke the fire in his belly a bit more, get the flames burning, and really try and push back up onto the coattails of the 2017 champion Enem Ahmed. But for the moment, yeah, just missing out on the podium spot. So 5.5 minutes to go. Here is the fourth place car in the hands of race one winner, the Argentinian Nico Verone. The 19-year-old looking to see whether he can close in on the 2017 champion, racing for Carlin in his opening round of the British Formula 3 iSport Racing Championship. And there is Enem Ahmed, who is seeing whether he can do anything about Carter Williams. I think he's just too far up the road at the moment, Carter Williams, and he's being pushed along still by Bart Horston, isn't he? So second place car is not having an easy time of it, because he's still got the Australian trying to unlap himself.
Yeah, that's for certain. And Foster has opened the gap to 1.5. So Foster has recovered well, kept his composure, and got it back going again. And you can see how much time he actually did lose. He was almost 10 seconds clear and managed to just about hold off Carter Williams into the chicane, but he's got going again. Horston now pushing him. But Enam Ahmed, he's down to 1.2 seconds. So I think Ahmed should just about get Carter Williams, but I think Louis Foster is just a little bit too much out of touch right now. And we'll see if Enam Ahmed can secure a podium, and even if Verona can recover at least to third place.
Yeah, we'll wait and see as whether there's any further twists in the tail, because there were quite a few in race number 1. There was probably even more in race number 2. But the top 6 on the left-hand side of your screen: Louis Foster, Carter Williams, Enam Ahmed, Nico Verone, Jamie Caroline, despite his spin, and Piers Pryor is still in the top 6. Jonathan Hoggard still in 7th, even though he had a call to the pits. Ali Al Khalifa, Josh Skelton and Josh Mason complete the top 10 the way things currently stand. And now Bart Horston has finally managed to unlap himself from Carter Williams, and Carter Williams has now certainly been caught by Enam Ahmed. So the fight is on for second and third position, and Enam Ahmed has been pushing very, very hard to catch the second place car. We go on board 2017 champion.
Now firmly in the slipstream of Carter Williams. Second place is on the cards for Enam Ahmed. Just needs to make the move. Verona is lapping at the exact same pace as him. So now this will give an opportunity maybe to Nico Verone to catch up in this battle. And also they've got to worry about, Ahmed's got to worry about Bart Horston as well, who's going to eventually have to unlap. Oh, Williams loose into the hairpin right now, trying to get back on the power as he heads towards the chicane, up underneath the diffuser. Looks to the inside, not going to be able to make a move right here, but surely he's got to be thinking about a move at the end of this straight.
He's not going to want to settle for third place, that's for sure, Enam Ahmed. But the one thing he won't want to do is try a lunge and take both himself and Carter Williams out of the race, hitting the rev limiter as it came over Hilltop and in towards the braking area for Hislops, closing onto the gearbox of the Dallara of Carter Williams that lies ahead. Remember, these are not the identical cars that we see racing in the BRDC Formula 3 Championship, but it is not that far away. Still gives the power, still gives similar levels of performance and downforce, and on iRacing now providing a great introductory evening. Remember, at 6 o'clock over the course of the next 5 consecutive Sundays, we'll see the championship worked out, and who is going to lift the Jack Cavill Trophy will be our champion. Now closing in again, Enam Ahmed got a better run this time, heading out of Lodge Corner up towards Deer Leap. He moves out from behind to the right hand side, gives him the inside line as they head towards Old Hold Corner. He's queued it up beautifully well, and Enam Ahmed goes through and up into second place, just ahead of Carter Williams. Carter Williams trying to fight back though as they come down in towards Denton's through Cascades.
Yeah, and Verona is now caught up to him as well. So Verona, this is the opportunity now. Verona needs to get past Williams now. This is for a podium place. Again, he started at the back of the grid, so podium is going to be a great result for Verona. Can he pop it down the inside into the hairpin here? He's not quite close enough, but this is just going to cost them even more time. Ahmed is clear. Verona is not. He's trying to get himself on that final podium spot here. Let's see if he can as they head through the chicane for what will be the second to last time, as we're coming close to the end of the race now, and I think there could be another 2 laps to go. Now Verona moves to the inside. He's not quite close. This is going to be frustrating Verona, because we talk about it. It's so difficult to find a spot to overtake here.
It is so difficult, and he'll be ruining Chris Middlehurst, who sort of held him up. I think inadvertently. I think if Chris had realised that he was getting caught and was about to be lapped, he probably would have moved out the way. But at the time, it cost Verone time. It cost him a place in the end, because that was really the catalyst to Enam Ahmed nipping through and gaining a place over him in the first place. So up towards the braking area for the final corner, Lodge Corner, then down towards Deer Leap, taken flat out. Less than a minute still to go. Louis Foster still safely out front at the moment, but this is the battle for second, third and fourth position. There is our race leader heading down towards Cascades. Out of Old Hall Corner now comes our trio for the final couple of podium places, and one of this little trio is going to miss out, and unfortunately at the moment that's Nico Verone. But it looks as though he's got a good run this time, heading down through Lakeside, and that's going to put Carter Williams under pressure as they head up towards Shell Oil's Corner, Jack.
Yeah, we are on the final lap, because the white flag will come out. Verone's got one more opportunity now, because the time is going to tick to 20 minutes. He tries to get up underneath Williams. Williams is defending that very nicely indeed. Now on the front nose cone we go of Nico Verone. You'll see how close he is now. Looks to the inside, no room there. This is going to be one of his final entries. Great exit Verone this time. Surely he's got him now. Moving to the outside line towards the chicane. Verone on the outside. Williams to the inside line. Can he outbrake him? Verone's going to have to try and outbrake him, but Williams holds the inside line nicely. Now the timer ticks to 20 minutes. It's Louis Foster out front. He's had no problems whatsoever apart from his little spin, but he's driven sublimely and he's on course for a win.
He is on course for a win. He's getting caught by Bart Horston, who's going to try and unlap the race leader, but he's going to run out of time. And Louis Foster is going to claim a win in round 2 of the British Formula 3 iRacing Championship, as long as he's neat and tidy through Lodge Corner, which he is, up towards Dearly. The checkered flag is ready, and it's a win for Louis Foster in the second round of the championship. A dominant win, despite the spin as well. Enem Ahmed comes through and finishes in second position. Who is going to pick up third on the charge to the line? It's close, but it is just Carter Williams from Nico Verone, but that was just separated by thousandths of a second. 0.09 of a second separated the final podium spot. What a fight that we had for that final podium spot there, Jack.
Absolutely brilliant. Verone just couldn't get it, but still, from 27th to 4th, is still an unbelievable drive from Verone.
Haven't done the maths, but it wouldn't surprise me if he was leading the championship.
No, certainly not. But definitely, still Louis Foster. I mean, he spun the car, managed to get going again, somehow kept it out of the wall, refocused his mind, and came through to win this race. And a great drive from Foster, and a good drive from Enem Ahmed as well. Caught Verone on the hop and caught him on the inside of the last corner, drove through to second. Yeah,
it's fantastic racing, wasn't it? Some of the other drivers we thought might have some good luck have had bad luck again in this one, but they'll sort of dust themselves off, and we'll head to Spa-Francorchamps on the Grand Prix circuit next Sunday. Don't disappear anywhere yet, though, because the drivers will bring the cars back into the virtual pit lane, and then they'll come and join us in commentary for a quick chat. Driver of the night from you, Jack?
Oh, that's a very tricky one. I'd have to give it to Verone simply because of how far he came back in the reverse grid to come back to 4th place. So, yeah, definitely Verone for me today.
I totally agree with you. And an unluckiest driver of the night, well, several of them, because there were some drivers, Harrison Scott, Nikolai Kiergaard, Ulysse de Pauw, all had issues in both race 1 and race 2. But they'll bounce back next week, won't they?
Yep, so remember, we're heading to Spa-Francorchamps next week. Totally different circuit to what we just drove around here, so expect plenty of slipstream there next week at the same time. But don't go anywhere, stick with us, because we're going to have a few of the drivers in for interview now as they bring it back to the pit lane. We'll have a quick run through the results on screen right now.
Yep, so Louis Foster claims the win and picks up the maximum 35 championship points for the reverse grid race. Enem Ahmed was in second place for Carlin Motorsport. And JHR Developments, Carter Williams sees them claim their first ever podium in the British Formula 3 Championship. Nico Verone, Jamie Caroline and Piers Pryor complete the top 6. Jonathan Hoggard, who was on the podium in race number 1, was just outside of the top 6 in race 2, ahead of Ali Al-Khalifa, Josh Skelton and Josh Mason, who complete the top 10. Bart Horston, Chris Middlehurst, Will Palmer and Tom Maxwell bring us down to 14th place. Kieran Vernon was 15th. He was on the podium in race number 1. Oliver Clark, Ben Hinchley and Ayrton Simmons bring us down to 18th position. In 19th place, Ulysse de Pauw, who had problems in both of the races. And in 20th place, picking up the final championship point, it's Chris Meelan. Out of the points, Harrison Scott, Nikolai Kiergaard, Jake Dalton, Johnny Adam, Wayne Douglas, Tom Gamble and Vladimir Choitsis, who all had problems very early on in the race. So whilst we haven't done the maths, I think we could probably say that if he's not leading the championship, he's going to be right at the sharp end of it. Nico Verone, who won race number 1, almost got himself on the podium in race number 2 as well. And we're just awaiting the arrival of our drivers to the interview waiting room where we can pick up with them. Remember, we go to Spa-Francorchamps 6 o'clock next Sunday for the second race meeting for the British Formula 3 iRacing Championship. That's on the 24th of May. 31st of May, we'll head to Silverstone on the Grand Prix circuit. And then when we head to the first 2 weekends in June, the 7th of June, it's Brands Hatch on the Grand Prix circuit. And the championship finale will take place at Donington Park on the 14th of June. Plenty of racing to come, double race formats in each one of those Sunday race meetings. 35 points for each race as well. So the original grid as per qualifying, race number 2, full reverse grid. So 70 points available in each race weekend in the inaugural British Formula 3 iRacing Championship. Well, we've got Carter Williams and Enem Ahmed ready for us, but I just want to hang on until we see our race winner come and have a chat to us, and then we can pick up with Louis Foster, who will be hugely pleased with the way that went for him, and particularly considering, Jack, that he had that spin. There's questions to be asked, isn't there, with regards to our race winner and the spin, and also Enem Ahmed and that cheeky little move to grab the podium spot.
Yeah, plenty definitely happened. I'd love to hear from Louis Foster what he was thinking when he almost binned it in the wall. Very lucky, quick reactions to keep it out of the wall on the inside there. So Yeah, really nice job from him. And yeah, so we're just waiting to see if Nico Verone is going to join us. Of course, he spoke to us earlier, but we'd love to hear from him again. And we'll have our race winner, of course, Louis Foster, waiting for him as well. But I think before we get into that, Mark, we'll grab Ian Ahmed for an interview.
Okay, well, we'll grab Ian Ahmed, who finished in second place. So Enam joins us in the commentary box. Enam, what a fantastic race that you were having with Carter Williams and also Nico Verone. That cheeky little move up the inside at Lodge Corner, gaining a place and getting you on the podium.
Oh yeah, well, it was great. I mean, it's Ramadan, so I'm fasting. It's like I'm 25 days in, no food, no water. And I didn't have the patience. Like in qualifying, I ended up messing it up. At the race earlier, I had a shot with Carter, so that didn't end up going too good. But I'm happy to make the ground up and get some points in the reverse grid race. I'm really happy about that, and especially that me and Jamie spot on the first lap on the exit of the last corner. With iRacing, it's so hard. Like it's very easy to make a big mistake and then you just lose the car like that. But I was happy to recover. Nico was much quicker than me, as we know. He pulled it. So I took advantage of the opportunity I had when he didn't seem to be as confident racing the other guys as I was. So I took advantage because I knew if we were like racing each other normally, he'd pull away. But when I saw the guy get in the way, this is my time to take advantage. So I overtook both of them, and then I had to overtake Carter as quickly as I could because I knew Carter wasn't quite as quick as me in that race, and I knew he would hold up Nico. So that's what I had to do. So I took advantage.
Esports are still quite physically challenging, Len, under Ramadan, but it would be worse if it were the real car.
Yeah, 100%. Mentally, it's really, really challenging. Especially the problem for me is the water. I can't drink any water. I'm sweating so much because it's so stressful. Esports, because it's so easy to crash. I find that esports more stressful than the real thing.
Is it good to be back in BRDC Formula 3? Obviously, you're looking at racing in FIA F3 this year, as and when we get going.
Oh yeah, 100%. I love this championship. It's run so well by the MSV. It's the best championship run in England, I think, for junior single seaters. So nicely done, and even a few championships from Europe can even learn a thing or two from how they run the championship. So much mileage, so much testing, and such good racing. I love this championship. I had really good memories of it.
Well, really happy to be part of it. Great ambassador for it. Well done. Congratulations, and we'll catch up with you at Spa next week, hopefully.
Yeah, I won't be fasting next week, so I'll be faster.
Thanks, Adam. We'll bring in our race winner now. Jack, should we grab a quick word with our race winner, Louis Foster? Because what a race it was from him.
Yeah, I mean, what do we say? We got now our race winner, Louis Foster. Louis, I think we were all a little bit on the edge of our seats when we saw you spin on the edge of the hairpin. How stressful was that trying to get it going again?
Yeah, I just thought I'd make it a bit more interesting, you know. I was had quite a big lead, so I thought I'd close down the gap a little bit and have more fun. No, I kind of just lit up the rears and then it went round, and I knew I had time to get it going again, but just enough before Carter overtook me. I knew I couldn't let him pass because it's Oulton Park and it's really hard to overtake around Oulton Park, so I knew I just had to keep it in front of him. But apart from that, it was pretty much plain sailing.
Your thoughts next week? We head to Spa-Francorchamps, you know, an entirely different circuit to Oulton, a bit like chalk and cheese, really, aren't they, the two?
Yeah, you know, Oulton's a very British track, if you could say, if that's a way of describing tracks. It's narrow, no room for error, bumpy, you know, it crafts racing drivers, and then Spa's quite a big, open, fast track where you can make a lot of mistakes and get away with it. So I think it'll be a good track. It'll be probably a bit more entertaining, overtaking wise, I would imagine.
But equally as challenging.
Yes, definitely. Yeah, definitely as challenging.
Well, well done on the win. Congratulations. All the best at Spa next week.
All right, thank you.
There we go. There was Louis Foster. We'll bring in Carter Williams, who also finished on the podium as well. And Carter Williams had a very, very busy race. Carter, was there any point of that race that you weren't either attacking or defending?
I think towards the middle, it was a little bit quiet. But yeah, I mean, in the beginning, I think I got ran over from behind, and then luckily had no damage. They just kind of avoided everything. And then the last 3-4 laps were pretty intense.
And at one point towards the tail end of the race, you'd got Bart Horston, who was a lap down right behind you. Was that a conscious decision to let him go?
Yeah, well, he kind of threw it in there. But yeah, no, I knew he was faster, and I mean, just kind of wanted to let him go a little bit. But yeah, it's just like, oh, please don't hit me, please. We made it this far. But no, it was yeah, that was pretty intense.
And you've been the man then that has debuted for JXR Developments in this championship, albeit we're in iRacing, not racing for real. But it's good to see new drivers and new teams coming in.
Absolutely, yeah. It's something that JHR or we wanted to do at the beginning of the year. We were looking to do British F3 with JHR and just didn't quite have the budget, and still fighting at the moment to try to get the budget to do it. But yeah, it's cool to debut, even if it's on iRacing with JHR and get a podium.
But hopefully we'll be doing it for real soon, hey Carter?
Absolutely, that'd be awesome.
Final quick question before I then get Jack to bring in Nico Verone, our final driver we'll chat to this evening. Your thoughts on Spa next week?
Well, actually, at the moment, I'm sharing a seat with Max Maserati, so I'm not sure if I'll be able to race that one. Hopefully, maybe we can petition to have me race that one. But yeah, we'll see.
Is that done on a flick of a coin or a draw of a straw, or how does it work?
I probably have to talk to some admin on that one. But yeah, no, I'd absolutely love to race Spa. It's one of my better tracks on here, so yeah, that'd be fantastic.
Well, hopefully we'll see you next week at Spa. If not, we'll catch you later on in the season. But well done. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
So there's Carter Williams, and the final driver. I think Jack probably will have a chat to Nico Verone. Two great races from Nico, Jack.
Yeah, absolutely brilliant. So, Nico, thanks for joining us once again. 27th to 4th. I don't think you can complain, but it looked like you definitely had pace for a podium at least.
Hi guys, yeah, absolutely a good race for me. I could, like I said before, I could pass all the incidents and yeah, gain a lot of places on the first laps. But then, you know, there are some people like Caroline and Middlehurst that I don't know what they are doing, because they were blocking me all the way, like on purpose. So I hope the admins or take on note that, because it's impossible to have a championship like this. I had the pace for the win at podium, and I lost 2 places because they were blocking me like 3 laps, and there were lap cars. So yeah, it's a bit of a pity, because you know we are doing this to have fun, to have a good championship, and race like in the real thing, and people like that do that thing. So I think it's not good.
It's still on occasions, but you can tell by your voice, Nico. It's just as frustrating, you know, driving real cars as it is, you know, when we're doing e-racing. It's something you, as a driver, you've just got to deal with and move on for next week.
Yeah, obviously, for me, it was like, you know, it was not that bad, because I managed to get points. But if we are going to, like, I know other people that were fighting with me in race 1, they get taken out by people who don't take this seriously. And you know, like that, you cannot have a good championship with fights and all that, because you have to have luck that people don't take you out and get points. So that's a pity, but well, for me was really good. I hope for next race people can change their style of driving, or so that we can have all a good championship.
And whilst we haven't done the mathematics yet, and the results will get confirmed later on, with a first and a fourth, you're going to be right at the sharp end of the championship as we head to Belgium.
Yeah, it was really good points. I didn't thought I could be in the top 5 seriously on second race, starting from P27. But yeah, people got taken out all in the first lap. It was like a carnage, so I could pass through and yeah, get some values points.
Well done. Congratulations, Nico.
Thank you, guys. CDR on top.
And I think we've got Jonathan Hoggard sitting in the waiting room. Should we see if we can bring him in, Jack?
There we go. Jonathan Hoggard, welcome to the commentary box. Looks like didn't quite go to plan for you, but still a decent points finish for you.
Yeah, no, I think, well, I was a bit surprised with how many people went off and had a bit of an incident on first couple of laps, and got up to P10 after lap 1. And then just got involved in a little incident with a car rejoin, and then hit the barriers and had to use a fast repair. So not ideal, but still a really good result.
7th overall, Jonathan. So as you say, yeah, good points for this evening. Spa-Francorchamps, I know that's a circuit that you absolutely love. You'll be putting in some laps in there in testing and some private practice this week, ready for next weekend.
Yeah, definitely. I think obviously the more testing you can do, the better. I think it'll be a lot of good hard racing at Spa with the slipstream, and I think it'll be very hard for the leader to get away.
You're probably one of the few drivers in the field, Jonathan, that's actually done some real racing this year, because of course you were out in Daytona racing in the Rolex 24 Hour in January, and there aren't that many drivers that have turned many wheels this year.
Yeah, exactly. I think I'm quite lucky, to be fair, with having done some racing. I did the Rolex 24, like you said, early in January, and then I did some Porsche Carrera Cup races in Malaysia just after that. So a little bit of running, but still a bit annoyed and frustrated that we're still, stuck at home. But unfortunately, that's just how it is.
And one final question. Sorry, Jack, I'm hogging the questions here, but my final question before Jack maybe just asks the last one of the night is, yes, whilst we are in the position that we're in with not a lot of activity in the social distancing, at some point when we get life back to normal, you've got a Red Bull test to do, Formula One test. And tell us about that. Any news on that? And is your heart still thumping at the prospect?
Yeah, well, I think obviously I'm super excited for that. That's probably probably many people's dream to have a go in an F1 car, and it's quite strange to think I came from British F4 2 years ago, then British F3, and now I get to drive a Formula One car. I think it's meant to be sometime late this year, hopefully, if everything goes to plan.
And of course, that comes about as a result of winning the Aston Martin Autosport BRDC Driver of the Year award.
Yeah, definitely a great achievement, and highlight of my career.
Well done. Jack, final question?
Yeah, just quickly, Jonathan. Of course, we're all stuck at home in lockdown now. How is it even getting the opportunity to race your colleagues on iRacing, even if it isn't in the real thing?
I think, to be fair, it's the sim racing has really helped quite a lot of people with, it's not just you guys doing the leagues. There's loads of other different leagues that are going along. And I know I took part in the BRDC race on Thursday, and it's quite...
All right.
Yeah, that went quite well. Came 1 out of 1, but it's just quite was a really good opportunity to be able to race. You got touring car drivers, GT drivers, single-seater drivers, all battling out on the same track, in the same machinery, same setups, and it's just whoever's the best wins. It's a great way to keep yourself busy.
Thanks, Jonathan. All the best at Spa. We have got another driver in the interview waiting room as well, so I'm going to bring in Piers Pryor to come and have a chat to us as well, because he's sitting there. We've got time to catch up with a few more drivers. Piers Pryor joins us in live commentary. Piers, I was there at the media day at Snetterton when we launched the championship season. You had a huge smile on your face at the prospect of racing in 2020. We're still hitting the pause button on that, but iRacing is a good second, isn't it? Well done on this evening.
Yeah, cheers. Thanks very much. As you can probably see on my face, I was absolutely buzzing to be there and driving around Snetterton in a real F3 car. And obviously disappointing with the current situation that we can't be out, but here we are, having a fake go around a fake racetrack. But no, it's good fun. I think at least it gives people something to watch rather than sitting at home and have nothing else and just watching the Bundesliga. But no, it's really good fun, and also I suppose quite good practice for learning the circuits and stuff. Regardless.
Well, I mean, you look at iRacing, which absolutely is at the top of its game in terms of simulators. There's so much now that even with iRacing is so transferable into the real world.
Oh yeah, I mean the cars, obviously we're racing the Dallara F3 and we raced the Tatus in British F3, but the way you drive the car is pretty similar, to be honest, especially around here. The lap times are within a couple of seconds, so I suppose there is some things you can take. These cars actually are a lot more on the edge than the real cars, I find, so you have to be even more precise than potentially you would be in real life. So I suppose that's good practice for not making any mistakes or anything, especially at Oulton Park where you touch the grass. I was just chatting to Nico a second ago, obviously won the first race, and he was like, as soon as you start pushing on this track, you're dancing with danger, I suppose, because you touch the grass, so you just clip one of the tyre stacks or get the power bit early and you go wide, and it's so easy to just lose it. But no, really enjoyable. I think it's a really good thing that the championship have done, putting on, a little sim race instead of just sitting around, because it gives us something to do and something to focus on, and then hopefully then we'll all be race ready come the season start eventually when it happens, hopefully.
Yeah, of course. Just finally there then, Piers, we're heading to Spa next week. So are you confident heading in? Plenty of laps coming inbound, I think, in practice.
Obviously we had a couple of practice rounds before, obviously the televised rounds, just to see how it's going, and think I had decent pace at Spa. Again, Spa's one of those where it's quite difficult to get a lap in quali, a bit like round here, because obviously on iRacing, if you put a wheel just too far off the track, you get a 1x, which invalidates your lap. And Spa, because there's so much runoff, you really want to push the limits to get the most lap time, but you go step over just slightly and then you don't get a lap time in. So I think quali is going to be really important, as it was this week. I've had a few practice laps myself, when we did the practice race, and also in the iRacing F3 Championship. I did a race about a couple of weeks ago. So yeah, it's a really good track. A lot more drafting, and I think the round here, around here it's pretty much just putting the laps together. Whereas obviously up round Kemmel and then round the back and the last sector, you're gonna, if you're within a second, you'll be right on the tail of the person in front of you by the braking zone. So should make some good racing. It's quite hard to overtake round here. It should make it a bit easier around there, and hopefully a little bit less carnage as well in the midfield. Just looking at the results, it seems like if you didn't crash, you'd pretty much guarantee the top 10.
Yeah, but it looks for considering Verona came from 27th to 4th. But thanks a million for joining us, Piers. We'll look forward to seeing you out on track, and well done on your result today.
Cheers, thanks very much. I'll see you next week.
Thanks. Yeah, so there we go. We've caught up with a chunk of the drivers there, Jack. It's despite the few little technical issues that I seem to have at the beginning of the evening, we'll get those ironed out for next week. It's been a great start, hasn't it, to the inaugural British Formula 3 iRacing Championship. Drivers seem to enjoy it. We've certainly enjoyed it as well.
Yeah, it's absolutely. It's great to have, of course, a real life championship represented on iRacing, even if we're not out on track in real life. We've got something to entertain everyone at home. We've got something for the drivers to do, because over the past couple of weeks, even myself interviewing different drivers, this has become an integral part of their training. So this is allowing them to keep, of course, on top of their fitness, keep their track knowledge up to date. And of course, what Piers just saying, these cars are harder to drive than the real things, so it would actually probably make it easier to drive the Tatas when they get back in there eventually. Spa-Francorchamps,
you'll be joining me there next week. Great circuit, longer lap, and as Piers alluded to, and I think Kieran Vernon alluded to it as well, where he messed up one of his laps. When you only get 2 laps in qualifying and it's a long lap at Spa, you've got to get it right.
Exactly, and with those who are familiar with iRacing, Spa is notorious for its runoff and getting 1x's, especially on the exits of Blanchimont. There's a large runoff there, but even if you even slightly put 4 wheels over the white line, you're getting that 1x, even though there's loads of runoff still there to use. So the drivers have got to be so precise. It's a very long lap. It's well over 2 minutes in the Formula 3 car, and the slipstream is going to be so crucial. They're down the Kemmel Straight and all the way down towards Blanchimont into the bus stop chicane. There's going to be so much more overtaking there, I think, is what we can look forward to. And I think the racing is going to be a little bit closer than we saw here today.
Well, thanks a lot, Jack. Thanks for joining me in the commentary box. That wraps everything up from Jack Canaan and myself, Mark Burrell, here at the opening round of the British Formula 3 iRacing Championship in association with Apex TV. Remember, we'll be doing this for the next few weeks as well, so join us next weekend, again at 6 o'clock, where we'll be heading towards Spa-Francorchamps for our second round of the championship. Until then, everybody, goodbye.